Well, greetings everyone. Today I thought I'd share a little bit about milk from the perspective of Ayurveda, the traditional health and healing system of India. So milk, especially cow's milk, is highly respected and regarded as a very healthy food according to Ayurveda. And yet, there are certain things to know about milk, certain things to be aware of in terms of the best way to consume milk, um, and the different kinds of milk that you can get. So first of all, cow's milk is considered a sattvic food. And so what does that mean? Well, sattva is a Sanskrit word that denotes peace, harmony, health, well-being, positivity. And so milk is considered a food that basically promotes harmony and peace of mind. Because our food that we take in not only affects our physical body, it can also have an effect on the mind. So that's one reason why especially cow's milk is so highly respected as a nutritious food, is because of this harmonious quality. Um, Milk is given willingly. It's uh, obtaining milk doesn't cause an animal any pain, um, as long as uh, the animals are treated with respect. It can be actually a very symbiotic relationship. And so there's this sense of harmony to that. Um, and especially if you know anything about Indian culture, traditionally in India, the cows are treated with great respect and even considered like a part of the family in some cases. So in that sense, it can be a very harmonious sort of experience. So a second interesting point about milk is that traditionally it's said that cow's milk is the only food that can nourish all seven dhatus within 24 hours. So what are the dhatus? The seven dhatus are the tissues in the body, like plasma, blood, muscle, fat, bones, marrow, etc. So our body is made up of these layers of tissues, the different kind of building blocks of our body. That's how it's organized in Ayurveda. And milk nourishes all seven tissues within 24 hours. And so basically what this means is simply that milk is a very nourishing food for our physical body. And so especially if we're feeling depleted or exhausted, or we really need a little extra nourishment, cow's milk is an excellent option to help bring in that nourishment. And so ideally, in most cases, whole milk is great because the fat in milk has important fat-soluble nutrients that are nourishing for our body. And so it's often good to choose whole milk. In some cases, if kapha is high in the body, or if there's a lot of, kapha can be related to mucus or congestion, that sort of thing, then reduced fat milk could be appropriate. But usually whole milk is great, and cream top is ideal. If you can get that non-homogenized milk that's less processed, you got to shake it up before you drink it. That's ideal. if you can only find homogenized milk, it's no big deal. You can still go with that. So, a fourth point about milk. So, many people seem to have difficulty, digesting milk, whether it's some kind of intolerance, lactose intolerance, allergy, or some kind of reaction. And according to the Ayurvedic perspective, in many cases, this may be due to simply how milk is consumed. Um, and so, for example, milk often doesn't combine well with many other foods, like milk and taking sour foods, or very salty foods, or milk and taking many different kinds of fruits don't combine well with milk, or milk and meat together, or milk and um, uh, so many other options that they just wouldn't mix well, and this would cause an issue with digesting the milk properly. So oftentimes milk is if taken alone, like as a snack between meals or before bed, that can work really well to avoid the kind of incompatible food issue. Um, some foods that milk can be taken with would be grains, like a piece of bread or some rice, that sort of thing, or some hot cereal. Raisins, dates, nuts, all of these kinds of things can combine just fine with milk. But other than that, milk is often best taken alone. The other the other little tip with regards to milk and making sure it's digested properly and well is that it's most of the time not recommended to take milk cold, that you want to warm it up and take it warm or hot. And actually, it's best to bring milk to a boil before you drink it. Why is this? So when you boil milk, when it gets to that temperature where it starts to boil, the proteins in the milk will start to cook. Just like cooking an egg, the proteins change structure and they become more digestible. And so it's recommended to bring the milk to a boil first and then let it cool down to a comfortable temperature, warm or hot, preferably, as preferred, and take the milk that way. And I can vouch for that in my own personal experience. I really like milk, and it used to be that if I took more than a cup a day, like, 2 cups a day, or maybe even just 1 cup a day, but every day like that, after maybe 3 or 4 days, I would start to get congested. And I used to think, okay, I guess I need to decrease the amount of milk I'm drinking. What I found is that ever since I've been boiling the milk first, I can have 1 or 2 cups a day, pretty much as much milk as I like, and I don't get that congestion anymore at all. And so, in my own personal experience, the bringing milk to a boil first really does make it more digestible. The other thing to know is if you get milk that's been ultra pasteurized, that milk has already been brought to a boiling point, and so you don't need to boil it again. You can just warm it up to whatever temperature you'd like. So that's a good thing to know. So a little side note, some people say, oh, cow's milk is meant for cows. Humans' milk is meant for humans, when they're in infancy. And so it doesn't seem right that we should be drinking the milk of another animal. Well, that's a valid perspective. An alternate way of looking at it is that, um, you know, we are very adaptable. And, you know, throughout the world, all kinds of traditional cultures had different kinds of diets according to their climate, according to their situation, according to their culture. And in Indian culture, in many cultures, milk was taken, and it's possible to adapt and to be nourished by this food if you'd like. So, I guess my sixth point on this little milk spiel is milk is considered a building and nourishing food. And so it's great if someone is depleted or underweight or, really needs to ground and nourish their body. If you're feeling a little spacey and you need something to kind of ground you and nourish. So building and nourishing is one thing, and cleansing is something else. And we need to strike a balance between the two for total health. So it's important to understand milk is a building and nourishing food, not a cleansing food. And so depending upon each person's unique situation, there may be times where it's appropriate to refrain from milk for maybe a week or two, if there's a need for a more cleansing diet for a period of time. But it's also important to understand that cleansing is something that should not be pursued indefinitely because it becomes depleting to the body. The body becomes like wiped out or exhausted, or the tissues become depleted. So we need that balance. There's a time to nourish, there's a time to cleanse. And milk would be on the side of more nourishing. So again, what's the recommended, suggested way to take milk so that the full benefit is gained for the body? So I already mentioned, first bring it to a boil. Unless it's been ultra pasteurized, it's already been brought to a boil. And so no worries about that. Drink it warm or hot. And what I didn't mention was spice it up. So many spices are also digestive aids, and they have other health benefits as well. And so it's really great to just experiment with whatever spices you'd like that go well in milk. Find combinations that you really enjoy, or if you have certain things you're working on to improve with your health, there may be specific spices that will be good for that you can research or talk to an Ayurvedic practitioner about. So some options for spices in milk: turmeric, you can add a little turmeric in there, cinnamon, dried ginger, cardamom, saffron, nutmeg. Nutmeg's great to add if you're taking milk just before bed. It can aid with help to deepen sleep. You can try a splash of rose water in milk. Pumpkin spice can be really good in milk. Just any kind of the kind of spices that you use in chai. So you Throw even a little black pepper in there if you want to. Um, so these are the kinds of spices that are often used with milk. Um, and you may want to just pick two or three, experiment with combinations, or you can get really fancy and make a whole blend of a bunch of spices. And, the idea is make it really tasty, make it something you enjoy. And and that will also be nourishing for your mind. Um, so also you can sweeten milk if desired. You can use a little bit of, all natural sugar. You can sweeten milk with a little honey. Just be careful to not cook the honey. According to Ayurveda, that um, can create some residue that's not desirable. So if you use honey with milk, it's recommended to use raw honey and add the honey after the milk has cooled down to a drinkable temperature. And that would be the best way to go with honey as a sweetener. But you can use a little organic sugar. Um, the other option is you can take a medjool date and you can blend it in the hot milk. That's really good. Um, I have an immersion blender, and so I can boil the milk, put it in a glass jar with a date, and just blend the date. It takes like 30 seconds, and it's really tasty. Add some spices, some cinnamon, cardamom, whatever spices you'd like. Um, so yeah, so those are some tips uh, and some information about milk from the Ayurvedic perspective. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share below, or feel free to be in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you enjoy. Namaste.